We'll start with a few notes on our Trend Resource Center and then dive right into what the findings are. First, a reminder, Naharka said you look at the recording, it'll include all the slides that you're seeing will be sent out after the webinar. Now, for those who aren't familiar with ADARA, you might wonder where our data comes from. We have over 270 consumer brands that share their data with us, including names you likely recognize, such as United, Marriott, and Singapore Airlines. We also have dining and event data as well as social gathering data. And in the past month, we've added home buyer data too. In short, we have a lot of data across the spectrum of consumer behavior. In travel, we typically see over 14 billion searches a year and almost 1 billion air and hotel bookings. We're able to get quite detailed on transaction behavior, as most of our 1 billion profiles have on average 30 data points per profile. We've made our trend data available on our website. It's organized by region, US, EMEA, and APAC. You see the URL here, so you can access the data yourself. We do update it daily, so check back often for the latest. These insights have been developed by ADARA's brilliant analytics team. Of course, you're welcome to reach out to them if you're interested in custom reports and insights. You'll find it easy with the purple request button. Also, if you do have questions, as Naharka mentioned, please go ahead and put them in the chat box. A few weeks ago, we held our first office hour, and it was a big hit. So tomorrow afternoon, Milind Patel, Director of Field Data Science, will be joined by Piyush Shrivastava, Director of Analytic Products. They'll both be on tap to answer your questions. You're welcome to call into this free-form discussion. For example, you might want a deeper explanation of one of the charts you see today, or to better understand our assumptions, or perhaps you've got a specific question about data, what data we might have to help you with your specific business needs. We'll be sending out the link with the slides. It'll be in the chat box. It's scheduled for tomorrow, 1 to 2 Pacific. For those on the East Coast, that's 4 to 5. I hope you'll take advantage of Milind and Piyush's insights and expertise. Let's start with some high-level macro trends for hotels. This first chart shows hotel booking volume with comparisons to periods earlier in the year. As you track the trend, you can see that the end of summer has dampened demand, particularly for leisure travel. The chart tracks the year-over-year change in bookings, breaking out business in blue and leisure in red. Volumes are still lower than last year, making all the numbers negative. So the taller the column, the more negative the volume is compared to last year. Focusing on the two sets of columns on the right half of the chart, both the blue business travel column and the red for leisure have gotten more negative as we've moved from an early uptrend period, May through mid-August, compared to the current period of 15 August through 7 September. It appears that some of the enthusiasm for travel is diminishing. Let's look at it from a different angle with a focus on when is the trip going to happen versus when the booking is made. There's obviously a timing gap between those. Again, the taller the column, the more negative for this year-over-year comparison. Here we do see some optimistic signs for Thanksgiving, which is down 65%, and end of year down, which is down a negative 70%. Now that's compared to negative 85% for the mid-autumn travel period. So that suggests a certain amount of lift and interest as we get further on in the year. That's the level of demand. Let's take a look at where people are going. We took those 4 same travel periods covering the rest of 2020 and ranked the top 10 destinations for each, along with the change in volume year over year, that's in parentheses. As you scan the destinations, you can see it's a mixed bag with a combination of sun and sand, family fun, and typical nightlife, exciting destinations. You'll have a chance to explore this chart on your own when you receive the slide deck later today. A couple of things hit me right away. First, that Las Vegas continues to top the list as it has throughout the summertime. Now we see it continuing into the fall and towards the end of the year. It's in the first or second ranking across the rest of the year. And then secondly, that Orlando was highly ranked during periods that kids are typically back in school, early and mid-autumn. And the year-over-year change, while still in the negative, is a negative 68.6%, but that's less negative than many of the other destinations. There's a lot of speculation about whether remote learning will allow more families to travel this year. These findings suggest that some families are indeed traveling, when in past years they've stayed home. On this next table, we focused on leisure bookings for travel from the 8th of September, so after Labor Day, to the end of October. Again, we've ranked them by booking volume and provided the year-over-year percentage change. Most of the destinations for the shorter horizons under trip stay, length of stay, under 3 days and between 3 and 7 days are pretty predictable. Denver, Los Angeles, Boston. But looking at the longer horizon beyond 7 days reveals a couple of surprises. First, Las Vegas, which is generally considered a short stay destination, ranks first for stays of more than 7 days. That's unusual. This could be folks choosing the location as a work from home spot or people just looking for a longer break. And we see a couple of East Coast beach locations, Fort Myers and Myrtle Beach, making the list for the first time. And even the case of Fort Myers posting a positive year-over-year rate. As marketers think about how you could attract these travelers that are exploring non-traditional, longer stay destinations, what sort of offers, guaranteed adjoining rooms, parking, meal vouchers, might be most appealing? We've covered how people are traveling. Let's switch now to whom do we see traveling? What significant segments are worth marketing to? At ADARA, we're able to track individual level shopping and booking over the course of a couple of years. Based on this data, we can isolate some important characteristics about the trip planning personality of travelers, as well as their overall potential value. Let's start with trip planning. Now I'll get to the chart in a moment. First, a bit of background. We looked at over 18 months of data and then scored people based on whether they tended to be spontaneous travelers, booking most of their travel within 15 days of departure, or check-in, or whether they were more long-term planners, booking their trips more in advance. In the middle are short-term planners, those that book some trips with a short window as well as some trips more in the future. So it's a combination of these trips. The booking mix, when you look over that 18 months, shows spontaneous group booking about 3/4 of their trips within 15 days of the start of the trip, while the other end of the spectrum, the long-term planners, have more than 50% of their trips planned more than 2 months in advance. So there's some real distinctions in terms of what we're calling these trip planning personalities in terms of the mix of trips. Turning to the chart for hotel bookings in August, we found that our ability to detect this travel planning personality showed meaningful differences by segment, even during a period when we saw an across-the-board increase, about 20% in short-term bookings for all travelers. On the chart, we see that 99% of the bookings made by spontaneous travelers were for trips taking place in the next 15 days. We're focused now just on August. For long-term travelers, that proportion was closer to 25%. So being able to predict amongst the shoppers who is likely to book immediately allows marketers to more meaningfully engage with people. I should add that when I'm talking about individuals, these are anonymized and follow all the privacy rules. It's just easier to think about them as people. And that ability to predict travel planning behavior is scalable. Those that we identified as spontaneous delivered 47%, almost half of all the last-minute bookings executed in August. Consider the implications of how you'd market to someone on your website if you knew with high confidence they were likely to be traveling in the next 2 weeks. At ADARA, we can also detect who are the road warriors and who are the novices travelers based on past behavior. We created 3 categories of travelers based on our proprietary travel value score, which is a composite metric that reflects the customer's potential value as a traveler. We can get very discrete on the scores. For today, we've put people into 3 buckets. Low value score, these are the novices, typically taking 3 to 5 trips per year. Those that are in the medium category are generally traveling 1 to 2 times per month and spending up to $20,000 per year. And then finally, we have those in the high category who have 3 or more trips, 3 or more trips per month and are spending over $60,000 per year. These are the people that typically belong to multiple loyalty programs at the elite level. Here's how people that have been scored for these groups are traveling now. If we compare the proportion of travelers in the pre-COVID period, the column on the left, to those that were booking in July and August, we see a shift with more booking activity generated by the medium value travelers, the green block, and to a lesser extent, the low value travelers, the pink block. The proportion of high frequency, high spending travelers in purple has dropped 15%. Bear in mind that ADARA's data tends to reflect a bigger proportion of leisure and unmanaged business travel. So the drop in corporate travel is going to be less pronounced in our data set. So the proportion of the most frequent and high-spending travelers has dropped. Do we think that the types of hotels they're going to stay at has also changed? It turns out there's only a minimal shift in the hotel category mix of hotels from the pre-COVID period to the current period. That's the last couple of months. So the column on the left to the column on the right. There's no change at all in the percentage of luxury hotels they're booking at. And when you factor in full-service hotels, the percentage of bookings in those two top categories only dropped by 4%, the total from 86% to 82%, with the difference mostly picked up by mid-scale hotels. It seems that the financial health of this group remains high, and that some of the shift is likely driven by a desire to avoid high-density, multi-floor hotels. ADARA has recently begun using our multidimensional data to gauge how consumers are adapting to the new normal. We've used our data to create the ADARA Consumer Vitality Index that accounts for both financial resources individuals have at their disposal, as well as their willingness to participate in group settings, to be physically close to others, whether that's at restaurants, shops, or on planes. We've taken 5 dimensions of our data, that's travel in pink, real estate, home buying, home upgrades in green, dining in purple, live entertainment events are in turquoise, and social gatherings such as birthday parties and baby showers are in orange. And we capture those through social invitation platforms such as Evite. They're indexed first to the first normal week of the year in January 12th, which is the first column on the left, and that's the basis for the index. There's a column for every week of the year up until the week ending 6 September. We're looking at 2 things here: the volume of activity, which is the height of the column, and the composition of each column, reflecting which types of activity have been most prevalent. Focusing on the recent period, the last couple of months, we see that every block of color, except green, which is real estate, has been remarkably stable. Consequently, the height of the column is essentially determined by the volume of real estate activity, which has been pretty volatile week to week. We'll be posting this index on our website in the next week or so. You're welcome to check back and see how consumers' behavior is progressing. We think it's a great guide to understanding and predicting what we might be seeing in travel and in other sectors as well. With that, David, I'll turn it over to you.